That is Knockouts and Three Counts. I should say this is Knockouts and Three Counts. And yes, this show is dedicated to our guy, Ken Brass, otherwise known as Brasshole, one half of your hosts over on the Potters of Destiny. You just saw him here on the show when we did the show live with D-Mac and Schwartzy and everybody over at Grind Time, man. Rest in peace, Ken. Make sure you guys stay tuned to all of our social medias. And we've got some real special stuff in the works to commemorate the homie. But we've got a lot of good things to talk about tonight. We got a guy coming on the show tonight who we've talked about this episode for a long time, and one that a lot of people have asked why he's never been on the show. So to answer all you motherfuckers at once, we got the DBA on the show. What's going on, my man? I appreciate
What's up, bro? You all right?
Shit, I'm breathing. I'm not at the post office for 3 days. It's a good damn weekend.
Hell yeah. Sounds like it.
How you doing, man? That's what I'm talking about. What are you doing for the 4th?
Man, I'm just going to hang out with my mom. You know, she got this little thing going on, so I'm going to hang out with her for the day.
Brother, I appreciate that. Those that follow the show know my mom had a heart attack about a year ago, Mother's Day, and went into cardiac arrest and is back doing her thing. So I feel that anytime I get to be around the family like that, I'm with it 100. And J-Bone has finally made his way into the chat. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. I look uglier on camera.
Yeah,
but at least it's working.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're the one having to worry. We're going to have to get fan mail just for you, bro.
We don't got to talk about all that. DBA, how's it going, brother?
Nice I'm all right, bro. How you doing?
Nice to see you, sir.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I was letting them know tonight's show is dedicated to Ken Brass. If you got anything you want to throw on that before we get started tonight.
That's a tough one, man. You know how it is, but just we're just blessed to work with the guy, to be graced with his presence in our life, man. And prayers to his family and all his friends and everybody that he touched in this process. Like I always say, in this podcast media world, man, you meet a lot of people, and he was a real one. And all I can say is we're very blessed to have him run through our lives, man. So God bless you, sir. We'll see you on the other side, man.
Hell yeah. Shout out to his kids, Kendall. And like I said, they were all with us as well. But like I said, man, this is a show that we have been talking about for quite a while, man. I've been going to XICW shows for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. XICW has become quite the staple here. The Monroe Dynasty has become a staple here in the Michigan area, man. But before we get into the Dynasty and XICW and all those things, bro, I'm going to ask you the annoying question of, talk to me about what got you hooked into wrestling. Who was it or what was it?
You said the annoying question, huh?
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I've been doing this shit a long time, but I feel like that's like the base spot, especially being somebody like you who has gone all the way to the other side, doing all the hardcore shit you do too. So it's as good a question as any. What is it that hooked you into wrestling?
No, that's a great question. And most people know it was my father, Malcolm Monroe Sr. He was a wrestler. He started wrestling back in '74. He used to wrestle with the Sheik and Bobo and all of them. So it's in my blood. That's how I started.
Yes, sir. You love to hear it, dude. I was going to say, I didn't know if, like I said, we've talked about it on the show. For me, man, it was, I think the first thing I saw was Undertaker. It was the first thing I saw when I was probably about like 6, 7. And then Austin kind of took things over for me. But for somebody like you, who, like you said, you've got multiple generations of the Monroes in the business at this point, from your dad to you. We got past guests of the show, MM3 as well. And now you got Caden in the game as well. Dude, talk to me about that. Growing up in a wrestling family like that and being around it, man. Was it always something that you thought you were going to do, or is it something like you found later on that you were like, I want to pick this up, or was it always from day one, just being around it?
I can remember back to being like maybe I think I started bragging like in the 3rd grade that I was going to be a professional wrestler. And everybody was like, no, you're not. I was like, yeah, I am. My dad's a wrestler. And they was like, no, you're not. I took that through middle school, took it all the way to high school. And they was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And then they see me now on Facebook and they were like, damn, you did it. You said you was going to do that shit.
Hey, man, and you've been doing it for a long time, too. And then not only that, your whole family has really laid their name in the game as well. You know, I know you guys just had your memorial show for the Sheik and your pops and all that stuff as well. Talk to me a little bit about your pops, man. Like, talk for those that don't know, talk to me a little bit about you know, his name in the game as far as wrestling goes, man, because you guys have been in this game, like I said, from generation to generation. And seeing the memorial show, I was there last year. I didn't get to make it this year, but it's cool to see the legacy. Talk to me a little bit about your pops and how does that tie in with the Sheik?
Yeah, man. My dad, man, he was trained in 1974 by I think he was trained at Luke Klein's gym. And you know, back then, you know, black wrestlers didn't, you know, they really didn't get booked that much. You know, so when the Sheik came around and my dad, they became good friends. And my dad started working the Kobo shows for Big Time Wrestling and the Sheik. And that's why I dedicate the shows to them. And also, like when I was 16 years old, my dad used to drive me up to the Sheik's house, and he had a ring in his backyard. And they used to make me get in the ring and, you know, toss me around and beat the hell out of my ass. And, you know, so I remember that about the Sheik. So that's why I always dedicate these shows to him and my dad.
Well, you know, we talk about the Sheik. You know, I can't talk about that without shouting a rest in peace out to Sabu. I was there at the funeral. That was a wild experience in and of itself, seeing so many people that I've, you know, watched, whether it be watched them growing up or guys that I've even got to interview here on the show, like Rob Van Dam and Jimmy Jacobs, who I saw there as well. Shout out to the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow, who came into town for that. I rolled up there with her to the funeral, dude. Can you give those who, you know, maybe are newer to the wrestling scene here, man? You know, you bring up the Sheik. Obviously, we're going to talk about you, man, but the Sheik and that legacy, like, can you talk about like the stamp that kind of created on Detroit for wrestling?
Man, the Sheik was Detroit. You know, I used to be the ring boy, you know, the guy to walk the wrestlers to the ring and take their jackets back and stuff.
Yeah.
So I walked the Sheik to the ring plenty of times. And back then, wrestling was wrestling. The Sheik was the Sheik. What you saw on TV, that's who the Sheik was. You know, even walking him to the ring, he used to scare the shit out of me. You know, so that was his personality. That was him. You know, so but I got to know him through his wife. You know, I told this story one time before. One time at the house when I was bumping around in the ring or whatever, his wife Joyce made us lunch. And the Sheik was walking around in the house and he was, you know, speaking, you know, his language. And Joyce was like, stop playing. And he was talking to me. He was like, she was like, stop playing, speak English. And he started speaking in English. I don't remember what he said to me, but I was shocked that he could fucking speak English, bro. And I was 16 years old thinking that he couldn't speak fucking English, and he did all this fucking time.
Keeping kayfabe like a mug, huh?
Fuck yeah.
Hey, man, shout out to everybody that's checking us out. It says we got about 160 people in here. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, share button, like button, all the buttons. Let motherfuckers know that you're watching, you're listening, however the hell you're checking us out. And if you haven't done so, make sure you check us out on all those podcast platforms and leave one of those reviews. But, dude, talk to me about XI. Like I said, XI, I've been going to XI shows back at the Hot Rocks for years, dude. Like, since I was in high school and all that kind of shit as well. How does XICW come to be, and kind of talk to me about kind of its evolution to what we're seeing now?
Damn. So XI came to be, I used to work for my dad. He owned Insane Championship Wrestling and Midwest Championship Wrestling. I worked for him. This is back in 1999, I think. Yeah, 1999. We got into a personal beef. Shit. Me and my little brother got into it. And my dad took my little brother's side. And me and my dad both were stubborn. So he wouldn't let me wrestle for him. I was still wrestling all over, but not for him. You know, so I sat around and waited and waited and waited. He wouldn't give me my job back. XICW was started, and 25 years later, we still here.
Dude, There you go. Best promotion in Detroit. You're not wrong, Donald. Shout out to Donald, man. It's been a minute since we've seen Donald in the comments.
What
dude.
up, Donald?
Hey, man, that's my guy.
Yeah, Don is my guy. Yeah, that's my man. He loved fucking Michigan wrestling. And he loved XICW.
There is nobody who supports Michigan wrestling and their podcasts and all those things. Like, dude, like Donald has been one of our biggest supporters, and that's why every time I'm at a show, and he can attest to this, I always tell him thank you for checking us out in the way that he always shows love. And I know it's the same tenfold to you guys, the wrestlers, man. It's a dope thing to see, dude.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, we talked a little bit about the memorial show, dude. Tell me for some of the fans that missed it, bro. Talk to me. How did it go? What were some of the hits? Why do people got to make sure that they're in the building for the nenext one before we get to talking about what you got going down in Star Wars?
All right. Well, you know, the memorial show, man, that's one of my better shows of the year. I love that show. It brings a lot of the older guys together that used to wrestle, you know, like in my dad's generation, in the middle generation, and then the new generation. So it brings all of us together, and it's our Hall of Fame show. So, you know, Jimmy Jacobs got inducted. Tommy Rich got the Sweet Daddy Lifetime Achievement Award. Jack Price won the United States title, a replica of what the Sheik used to have. Adam Wick punk ass, I don't know who he beat. I can't even remember. But overall, it was a great show. You know, it's one of our longest show of the years because we do the Hall of Fame and shit. But it was a great show overall from what I watched.
Hell yeah, man. Shout out to past guest of the show, Jimmy Jacobs. Like I said, just ran into him. Dude, the memorial show is always fun because you never know what you're gonna get with it. You know who you're gonna see there. And I mean, like you said, the tradition of that show is something that makes it a fun one to be at. You know, we talk about the DBA. For those who might be new to you or new to XICW, who's the DBA? How did you become the DBA?
Well, me and my dad, when I first started wrestling, we sat down and I didn't want to be Malcolm Monroe Jr. Well, I wanted to be something else. So me and my dad came up with the DBA character, which AT Huck, shout out to Huck, came up with the name Dirty Black Assassin. But we came up with the character DBA where I wore all black, you know, black camo pants, black t-shirt, and a black mask. Because I didn't want nobody to know who I was. Because I didn't want them to Malcolm Monroe Jr. So I wrestled under the hood for about 6 months, I think it was. And then it was time for me to come out of the hood. And at the time, it was at my dad's promotion, and it was Edge, Christian, Rhino, and somebody else. They wrestled for my dad. They all took the hood off and exposed that it was me. So that way I didn't have to go by Malcolm Monroe. I could still go by DBA. That elevated to the most dangerous man. No, I was the dangerous one after that because I used to jump off shit and flip off shit. So I became the dangerous
just
one.
like your kid.
And then after that, I became the most dangerous man in Michigan because I whoop ass because that's what I do. And then now I'm the godfather of Michigan because I'm old as fuck and I run this bitch. And all of those names I did not come up with. Everybody gave me those names. Fans, wrestlers, peers, family. I never came up with none of those names. So I'm the motherfucking godfather. Y'all better watch out.
You love to hear it, dude. You know, that's funny. Coming from the world of fighting, that's one thing that I always laughed about it because that was always like an unwritten rule, right? Like you couldn't give yourself a nickname. Like if you gave yourself a nickname, you were gonna get ate up. Like it's sad. Most people joke around, and when I've gotten to do wrestling commentary, shout out to my guy Whip. Always calling me shit like Killer Kyle and all those kind of things. But dude, I remember I got a nickname from when I was boxing when I was a kid that never left. They called me Whiskey. I still have focus mitts from when I was like 15 that got that on there because I'll never forget my first fight I ever had. It was out in the middle of the summer off of West Warren and shit next to where the GG's is at and shit. Out in the middle of the road. Out in the middle of the parking lot, middle of the summer, and I had just got in trouble because I got caught taking some of my dad's liquor because my dad used to work for Mohawk Liquor. and I was too dumb to realize that it had the state seal on it. And I'd had it for a long time. And you'll get a kick out of this because you like to scrap. I got thrown out of a baseball game because somebody was talking trash to me in between a doubleheader. And I finally had enough. We had some disagreements. And then after that, lo and behold, Mom found the pint of apple schnapps in the closet of this room that's now my studio. So I'll never forget, dude. I'll never forget that as long as I live, because, dude, oh my God, I went to the gym the next day. I had to spar with every one of them assholes. Once they got done with a horrible workout, I got my ass whooped. And then it got time for me to fight. They didn't even call me out by my name. They called me out by whiskey. I was like, son of a bitch. I was like, this is just bullshit. I don't even get to get called out by my name. Not that getting called out by your government name is always a good thing, but 14, or not even, I was 13, damn.
Call you whiskey.
Dude, I still have those focus mitts somewhere around here. Matter of fact, one of the gloves that I fought in the second fight is in this closet too. Jesus Christ, it's making me feel old. But enough about me. Back to you, dude. We talked a little bit about it, about you having your family in the game, and like I said, MM3 is a past guest of the show. I've seen Caden get in the ring as well now. What does it mean to you to be able to get to have not just your legacy, but your pop's legacy, your family's legacy continue to grow on, not just here in Michigan, but I mean, dude, he was just out in Japan doing his thing with ICW. I mean, for a father, that's got to be pretty dope.
Yeah, man, that is. Like I was telling somebody, one of my things when I was coming up, I wanted to wrestle in Japan. That never happened for me. And seeing my son do it, man, that made me a very proud dad.
Busting my balls about my drink of choice right now. He knows what time it is. Jack and lemonade's a nice little sip on, bro. You's all right. Don't mind me, my bad. But hell yeah, dude. With you getting Malcolm and Caden and all them in there, was it something where you said that when you got into wrestling, you didn't want nobody to know that you were Malcolm Monroe II, and you putting the mask on to kind of like keep people from knowing that. When they got in there, were you cool with it? Was it something like you were wanting to keep going, or was it something like one of those things you try to keep them away from?
Well, I didn't think Malcolm was gonna wrestle when he first started growing up. Because my dad had a school, and Malcolm, he was like 3 years old. He would not want to be in the ring at all, and I was like, man, he ain't gonna wrestle at all. But he grew up and told me that he wanted to wrestle, and he went to the House of Truth, and that was great. That he did that. Caden, on the other hand, he grew up into wrestling. He'd been watching DVDs and all of that since he was 1. I got custody of Caden when he was 1 year old. So he was watching DVDs. He grew up in the wrestling. He was doing suicide dives in the ring on Invisible Man at 3 years old. He ended up doing. He got in the ring, did a suicide dive to the floor, hit the concrete, boom. I'm like, boy, what the hell is you doing? And he was 3 years old. So I'm like, I know he gonna be a wrestler.
Hey man, that'll do it, especially if he's got the suicide dive now, man. That's as good as getting out of the ring these days.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, back in the day, like the dive through the ropes was the shit because not a ton of people did it, or it was like the luchadors that you'd see do it. Nowadays, man, it's like everybody does that shit. Now it's like cool if somebody does it like through like the bottom rope and shit. Well, dude, we talked about a little bit about what Malcolm was doing over there in Japan and kind of following in your footsteps to a degree with the hardcore wrestling. Was hardcore wrestling always your love, or do you kind of like got a balance for them both?
I mean, I grew up watching Mick Foley. Well, he was Cactus Jack at the time. I grew up watching Cactus Jack and Terry Funk and the Sheik, but when I first came in, I didn't think about doing the hardcore stuff. I started when my dad was the one that really brought hardcore wrestling to Detroit back in 1996 because we lost the Michigan Commission and were able to do whatever. So he started bringing in Madman Pondo, Ian Rodden, guys like that. So him and Huck, really started that. And so once my dad, all the hardcore guys left. Well, it was yeah, they say death matches now, but hardcore guys, they left the promotion. I had to step up for my dad because it was my dad's promotion, and that's when I started doing the hardcore.
Hell yeah. So here's the thing. So, like I said, we mentioned that with Malcolm. Like, did you ever like see yourself like wanting to do all like the Japan tours or like the FMW type shit?
I saw myself going. I wanted to go over there one time, just to say I can do it.
Dude, Japan is one of those things, especially with us covering combat sports. I always have said this. I said, whether it's watching wrestling over there or seeing a fight over there, because I've had so many of my friends have fought over there now. I'm like, dude, I have to like get to Japan at least once. And I hope that whenever I can do it, I can like just make it to where it's like one fell swoop, dude. I need to see a fight in Japan. I need to see some wrestling in Japan. And if there's some deathmatch shit while I'm there too, we'll just fucking cross all three off in the thing. Japan's definitely one of those I gotta hit, but I always hear from everybody that goes over there. You know, I was just talking to I was talking to Tommy about it before he went over there, dude. Like, you know, just the difference in the culture over there. I feel like that would be like the biggest shock for me if I went over there.
Mm-hmm.
I swear. I mean, I've traveled so many places at this point. I feel like you'd eventually figure it out, you know, like once you get over there and that kind of stuff. But I just feel like just from looking at it from, you know, 1,000 feet, you know, whether that's social media or whatever, I look and I'm like, holy shit, bro. Like that's gonna be a whole nother thing. He wrestled Toru in Freedom's Deathmatch World Champion. Dude, I'm with it. Like I said, I'm team MM3 and the Monroes all day. Like I said, I've been rocking with y'all for years between XICW and everything else. I knew what you meant. I'm picking up what you're putting down in the comments, bro. I got you. Speaking of those kind of things, you know, it's awful ironic that you're coming on the show because you guys got through the Memorial show. Now you've got Scar Wars coming up, which sounds like it's right up both you and MM3's wheelhouse. And you're going to be facing one of our past guests of the show. And lo and behold, he hit me up saying that he wants to come back on the show now that he's seen that you're going to be on the show tonight. So, talk to me about Scar Wars. Talk to me about facing the Duke, John Wayne Murdoch.
You know, Scar Wars was something my dad came up with for the Lincoln Park shows. So that's why I named the show Scar Wars. This year is something different. It's mostly death matches, and we haven't did that in a while. I wanted to go back to our roots, back to what XICW did. We was the ones that after my dad did it, we was the ones that continued it. So I just wanted to do this show, Scar Wars, The Return of Death, and show the XICW still can do hardcore death matches.
Okay. Talk to me about the Duke, man. Talk to me about you and the Duke facing off.
Well, you know, he sent messages up here. He heard we was doing the show. He sent messages up here challenging me. Now, I beat the Duke a couple of years ago to become the first black deathmatch champion because he was a fool and put his title on the line the night of the show, and I whooped that ass. So July 19th ain't gonna be no different. I'm gonna whoop that ass again. But we in the Panes of Glass match, the best of 7. Ooh. So I got to put him through 4. He got to put me through 0 is what's going to happen. So, and now he just won the American Deathmatch title. So I'm trying to get in touch with Danny so he can put the title on the line and he can have a new champion.
Well, Danny DeMonto, you know, I know that you've been known to listen to these shows from time to time. You know, challenges are out there. And like I've said before, the door is always open if you want to come chop it up with us. I know you had a great chat with our guys at bodyslam.net. Shout out to everybody on Bodyslam that's watching us as well right now. But I love to see a challenge this time of year. Talk to me about the panes of glass, bro. How bad does it fucking suck going through the glass?
It fucking sucked, bro. I don't care what nobody say. And John Wayne Murdoch, he know how to push my buttons because I retired from death matches because of glass. I got cut in the eye, almost lost my left eye, and then a couple of matches later, my dumb ass almost lost it again. You know, so that's what made me retire. So then he challenged me to a pane in the glass match, and then I just upped it to 7. Since you're gonna challenge me to something I don't want to do, then I'm gonna make it worth my while.
He said, I'm going to get the full experience, or at least maybe be given the full experience come July 19th, dude. I love to see it. We'll have to see what the Dukes got to say in response to that. But you brought up getting in touch with Danny DeMonto. You know, I've gotten to see you do your thing in the chains a couple times, bro. Talk to me about ICW. Talk to me about the difference in wrestling in the chains or like the no ring stuff versus what you're seeing inside the ring.
Well, ICW is something different. I love what Danny got going on. It's like being in a fight. You don't need no ropes. The chains keep you in the ring, and you got weapons. So it's just like you in a fight with weapons. That's how I look at it.
Hey man, I love to hear that because that's coming from the MMA side of things, man. That to me, it like wrestling at its core. I feel like when it's raw and gritty like that, bro, is when it's the most fun to watch. Like, ironically, shout out to Azad who put together our new intro that you saw for this show. Dude, that was why the Anarchy in the Arena match was my favorite match when we were there at Double or Nothing a couple weeks ago. These motherfuckers were fighting everywhere. I interviewed Swerve 3 weeks ago, and then he's fighting up the stairs right next to us, damn near punched the dude in the chair next to us. And dude, that's the unpredictability of wrestling, I feel like, is what captures a fan. You know what I mean? Like, you're not knowing what's going to happen. Like, oh shit, this dude's got some chains. Oh shit, this guy just went through some glass. Oh shit, they got a wall of tables over there. How the fuck is this guy going to survive? To me, that's one of like the best things that you'll find in wrestling. And I agree with you completely about that with Danny, because like the chains is something as you would think, you always used to see it when you play like the WWE games, stuff like that. You could change like ropes and all that kind of stuff. But to see that in real life, motherfuckers gotta suck. And I've fought in boxing rings and things like that. But man, if it's chains, that's gotta add a whole nother level to that shit. How bad are the chains? Is it something you notice that much when you're in there, or is it kind of one of those things where it's just kind of another day in the office?
Yeah, it's just another day in the office for me. I really didn't even pay no attention to change. I really didn't pay no attention. Oh, except when I got on top of the platform. That's the only thing. Standing on the chains is totally different than standing on the ropes.
Dude, Donald is the best with the questions on this show. Donald, we need you in here every week again, brother. But he said he wants to see Toby Klein back in XICW one more time. Him versus Tommy Vendetta for the Intense Championship.
But Toby retired, man. I don't know if we're gonna get one more out of him. Shit, we barely got one out of him 5 years ago. So I don't know. If you try to talk him into it, you got the mouth. You can talk to him. You're good at talking people into shit, Donald.
He said you're good at talking people into shit. You know what? I second that notion like 100%. He's the reason why D-Mac came on this show. He's the reason why dude, there's so many people that he said that he's wanted to see on this show over the years that have managed to come through, especially from the deathmatch ilk. So shout out to Donald, dude. That, like I said, we need more fans like him in wrestling. Shout out to Chris, our guy checking us out from Massachusetts, my man. You got to get down here and check out some Michigan wrestling one of these days. Donald's a hidden gem out here. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes that depends on who you ask, because man, that guy loves to get under people's feathers too. Like I've seen him ruffle a few feathers, especially in that deathmatch elite group, bro. He'd be all over it. Well, dude, speaking of throwing hands and all those kind of things, before we get to the last couple questions I got, let me take it off of wrestling a little bit. We talked about the fact that you and I both, luckily or unluckily, work for the post office, bro. So you got to tell me, being the DBA, how many times have your customers or people you work with or any of that kind of stuff caught on to what you're doing? Or is it something at this point where it's just a known thing and you got a bunch of people coming from the office to come check the shit out?
Well, the office I'm at now, the word got out. because I had gave one of the people a picture and the word got out. And then one of the carriers noticed me from years ago. They was like, "Ain't you a wrestler?" I'm like, "No." They was like, "No, I seen you at the show," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, it was me, yeah." And the people in Livonia, they've been new, so I mean, and some of the customers coming to the show, so it's about win-win.
What's the funniest story you got of somebody recognizing you were a wrestler out on the route or some shit or at work?
Damn, man, now you got me trying to go into the memory bank.
Thought-provoking
Years
questions
ago,
out here, bro.
it ain't had nothing to do with work, but years ago, I was at a restaurant with a first time date or whatever, and
Oh
some
shit.
kids walked up to me and was like, "Hey, ain't you the DBA?" And now, no, I'm not DBA. What that mean? He was like, "Oh, we thought you was DBA, this wrestler." And I was like, "Yeah, it's me." And it's like, "Can we get your autograph?" I'm like, "Yeah." I gave him my autograph, and the date was like, "If you a wrestler, if you're gonna be doing this wrestling shit, me and you ain't gonna talk." I was like,
Oh
"Check,
damn.
please." I was like, "Check, please," and I left her ass there.
She fucked around and find out.
That's right. How the fuck
Donald
we on a
wants to know,
date
are
and you
we
gonna
ever
tell
gonna
me
get
what
another?
not to do?
I know, in the DBA nonetheless. Are we ever gonna get another house party show?
Bro, Don, stop talking about the house party shows, man. I missed those. I don't know, man. I want to try to get one. I don't think it's gonna happen this summer, but hopefully we can get one next year in 2026.
You know, talking about house party shows, why is the first thing I think of when somebody says house party show, I thought of fucking New Jack. Bro, tell me why the first thing when we were there at that Anarchy in the Arena match the other week in Phoenix, man, the first thing I thought of when they turned on Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, I was like, man, this shit reminds me of New Jack and them, bro. I was like, where the fuck's Natural Born Killers at? Although the Bodies Hit the Floor one was pretty dope, but I don't know. Anytime I hear somebody play music during the matches, bro, it immediately makes me think of New Jack.
Hell yeah.
You gotta love it. Shout out to him and Mustafa. Rest in peace, man. Dude, so we talked about throwing hands and we talked about all those kind of things, bro. Does the DBA get down with boxing, MMA, any of that kind of stuff?
Nah, bro. I don't get down with none of that. I used to watch boxing with my dad and watch MMA with my son. That's close as I got to it. I'm from the streets, man. I was born in the 70s, 80s, 70s and 80s. If you can't throw hands, bro, you know, what the fuck?
I feel that, dude. I got into boxing because I had to learn how to throw hands being a kid that grew up with CP and all that, man. My mom put me in a gym where I was the only white kid. I had to learn how to fucking fight, got my ass whooped for a long time before I learned how to fight, dude. Donald, I just want you to know that I really read that comment like way the fuck wrong. It said the house parties were awesome. DBA would be grilling, and a half hour later is beating Heath Slater's ass. I thought he said Heath Slater's sister's ass. I was like, yo, what the fuck was going on at the house party? Whoa, time out, bro. Time out. I was like, I had to have read that wrong. Yeah, man, I always got to throw that in there, man, because you always get wild stories. Or then it's like the most random people that you would never think are like hardcore, like wrestling or fighting guys. You know who was the one that was real surprising was Aaron Stevens Sandow, bro. Like he took us down a whole wormhole of like UFC 2, UFC 3, and I'm like, you of all motherfuckers was watching Keith Hackney? What? Like the fuck do you know about Keith Hackney, bro? Man. Well, dude, we've talked a little bit about the post office. We've talked about the Monroe Dynasty. We've talked about deathmatch wrestling. We've talked about hardcore wrestling, dude. I've got one last question for the DBA that I think you're going to maybe have probably might be your best answer of the whole show on this one. So we call this segment the locker room etiquette segment. It's not what you'd think. I'm not trying to poke and pick and prod about nothing. I ain't trying to get you to say some shit that's going to get somebody in trouble. I'm going the exact opposite. What we do with this is either it be pet peeves you got, you know, as far as motherfuckers when it's in the locker room, or a new guy that when they come in and they do something, or advice that you'd give to somebody. I'll give you some of the answers that we've gotten thus far and some of the people that have added to them. We got from current NXT superstar Josh Briggs, wash your ball or bring your own squirt bottle, bring your own wrist tape. We've gotten wash your balls, keep your baby mama out the locker room. Silas Young said never talk too much and just shut the fuck up and be afraid to listen. You always have to have your ears open. Ninja Mac that just came through said always be in the ring training. Don't ever think that you're good enough to keep moving. If you had anything that would annoy you with that kind of shit, or like what Summer Rae said, she said sometimes people want to talk too much in the locker room where they just want to talk to everybody. You got to kind of get the lay of the land and all that kind of stuff. If you could add any of this, anything that is like something that sticks out to you when somebody comes in the locker room, advice that you had, or just like Josh Briggs said, bring your own squirt bottle. What would it be?
Yeah, that Josh is right on that. But I'm very old school, bro. I think you should, and guys don't do this no more. I know I do it, Caden does it, and Malcolm III does it. Go around and shake everybody's hand in the locker room. You know, these are your peers. You're supposed to introduce yourself and shake their hand. Some people look at me crazy. Some of these new kids look at me crazy as hell when I walk around and shake their hand and say, "Hey, I'm DBA." And they look at them like, "What the fuck is he shaking my hand for?" They have no business being in the locker room because they don't teach that in etiquette no more. And that's one of my pet peeves is motherfuckers don't shake hands no more.
See, so it's good to hear that one because see, we've had other people say that like, you know, showing your respect is a big thing, but like that the shaking hands thing isn't as big as it used to be. I like to hear that because I mean that's something I learned growing up, like going and training at different gyms and shit. If you walk into somebody else's house, you know, whether that's a gym, whatever it is, and then you just walk in there like you own the place, that's a way to get your ass kicked real quick.
Bro, I'm gonna give you a prime example. Back in the day, Pat Tanaka, you know, from WWF,
Yes.
he used to take me on the road with him to legend shows. And you know, I'll go around and shake their hands. Fucking Ricky Morton got out of his chair and said, "Hi, I'm Ricky Morton." I'm like, "Sir, I know who you are." He was like, "No, I just wanted to introduce myself." I was like, "Sir, I know who you are." He got out of his fucking chair. If a legend like Ricky Morton could do something like that, these little punk ass kids nowadays should go around and shake motherfuckers' hands.
Yo, that's real talk right there. Ricky Morton actually happens to be a past guest of this show, as well as his son Kerry. Shout out to Ricky and Kerry Morton over there. We might be seeing them soon. Also, I just seen in the chat, shout out to the CEO of Millions, Matt Whitaker, jumping in here. I appreciate the tip, kind sir. Appreciate that. But dude, it's funny you bring up Ricky because that's one of the things, you know, you see a guy like that, you know, we talk about a guy like Tommy Rich, who you talked about earlier. You meet so many of these old school guys, man, and like you can, how do I say this to where it makes sense? I know you'll understand what I'm saying, but like anytime I've ever met any of them kind of guys of that ilk that are from like the old school like that, like you can always almost tell when you walk up to them. It's not even like they look at you like, "Oh, I'm demanding respect." They'll be the coolest motherfucker you meet, but you can just tell like that aura. I don't know if it's because they're from the old school or that was just like a thing back then, but you could just tell that when you talk to them guys. You know what I mean? Like I always try to be respectful every time I talk to somebody, whether it's for an interview or just meeting somebody or whatever. But I always feel like when you see a lot of them old head guys like that, you can just, I don't know, you just can tell the difference between like guys like that and then like some of the young cats that you'll meet along the way.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I think you're right. I think it was the old school mentality because Bobby Eaton did the same thing to me. You know, he introduced himself to me like I didn't know him, you know, so I don't know. I think it is that old school mentality where they so humble where, hey, I'm such and such, you know.
Donald, I got you, my guy. I am not leaving you hanging, I promise. Bro, it's funny too. It's funny too because like I said, that's something that crosses over into fighting too, and I can't tell you how many guys I've watched over the years just come in and they get on the mat and they just either think they're going to try the coach or try the top guy in the room or whatever it might be. And it's just like, dude, like pump your brakes, homie, pump your brakes. All right, here's Donald's question. Serious question. How proud are you of seeing MM3, Tommy, and Isaiah Bronner all day one XICW guys taking over? Also, can I have permission to get an XICW tattoo? Oh shit.
Holy shit, bro. On the tattoo tip, I am fucking very honored for you to say that. It's only two people that got an XICW tattoo. Me and a guy was the head of my security named Steve. I'm honored that you asked that, bro. And if you want to, yes, you may get an XICW tattoo. Proud of Malcolm, Tommy, and Isaiah. My thing is this, bro. I always felt that I had an eye for talent. And all of those names you brought up, I took under my wing. When Isaiah first started, I took him under my wing. Look at him. Now he's a fucking beast. Malcolm III is my son. He's a beast. Tommy, I took under my ropes to start doing the hardcore matches. He started with me first. Hate to toot my own fucking horn, but I have a fucking eye for talent, and I'm very, very fucking proud of all three of those guys.
Donald said, I beat Steve in a beer drinking challenge at the house parties. Donald, I don't doubt that because I've seen you put a few back when we've been at ICW shows. Also, I appreciate you always offering to buy me a drink. But, bro, I don't doubt that. I'm with you on that. But, dude, that's one of the other things that's so cool about XI is, like you said, just the people that you've seen come through XI that have all, gone to bigger things. I saw like all the names that you mentioned, those are all past guests of the show, which you guys are new here. Make sure you go check that out. But, like you said, a Jimmy Jacobs, Truth Martini, you've got Rhino comes through there all the time. You've got, you can literally keep going down the list, bro. I've been going to your guys' shows for like shit since high school now. So like I said, it's just like, people think so often that independent wrestling, you got to go to California, you got to go to Florida, you got to go to Chicago, you got to go to all these things, bro. We got a lot of. You beat me to it. I was just about to say Trey Miguel next because he is also a past guest of the show. But like he said, dude, you literally have got a list of guys that are coming that have either come through here, continue to come through here, bro. Michigan's got a lot of either undiscovered talent or slept on talent, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's been like that for years. And they all came through XICW. Just like when he brought up Trey Miguel. When I started Proving Ground, season 2, Trey Miguel and I won a shoot tournament with, and he was a rookie. He was young. And now look at him now. Mr. Impact, Mr. TNA, Mr. Flippy Doo motherfucker. I'm proud of him too.
Dude, I'd love to see him doing well. I remember the first time we got to interview him and Zach Wentz, it was at a BCWA show. Shout out to Mike Blackwell, dude. That was so fucking long ago. Hell yeah. Shout out to Trey doing his thing in TNA. And shout out to TNA. There might be some TNA stuff coming your way real soon. Dude, speaking of that kind of stuff and talking about, all the names that come through XICW, like, what has it meant to you for XI to have the staying power that it has? Because, I've seen so many promotions either start, stop, whether it was because of pandemic, whatever. You could name about 100 different reasons why a promotion could close. What does it mean to you that, like Donald said, XI really is, in a lot of ways, man, the stamp of Detroit wrestling?
It's because we're different. We have different fans. Our fans is a different animal than most fans. Either you survive in XICW or you get ran out of XICW as a wrestler. A lot of guys couldn't hang in XICW. I started it with a bunch of knuckleheads that nobody wanted, nobody used, and it developed to what we have 25 years later, the best talent in Michigan. Like I said, we got Jack fucking Price, the new champion. We got Aaron O'Ryan. We got Adam Wick, Malcolm, Tommy Vendetta, myself. I got to throw myself in there, y'all. My son,
plug, bro.
The fucking roster is just so deep. XICW, like a lot of promotions don't last around because they expect to make big money instantly. You know, XICW started from the ground up, man. I lost so much fucking money when we first fucking started. It's pathetic. You know, it doesn't grow overnight, you know, and like I said, we have one of the best rosters in Michigan. No, I think we have the best roster in Michigan because XICW not afraid to pay a couple of dollars for talent, and we have the best talent. Sorry, everybody else. Sorry, but not sorry. We had the best fucking talent, period.
You heard this, man. You gotta fuck around and get with the times if you haven't gotten to them with XICW, dude. Well, I agree completely with that I definitely agree with that comment. I love what I've seen in both, not just in XICW, but the growth over the years. Like when you mentioned a guy like the Black Diamond Jack Price and all that stuff as well. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do now that he's back out on the scene, fresh out of TNA and all that stuff as well, man. But you know, before I let you get out of here, I guess this is as good as place as any to end. You know, we got a couple questions in the comments about stories and things of that nature. So I asked you locker room etiquette. We talked a little bit about Sabu. Sabu and Rhino are two guys that I've seen around XICW. I don't know how many fucking times. So with that being said, do you got any good Sabu or Rhino stories, whether they be XICW or otherwise, that you want to let anybody know?
Damn, all these damn fireworks behind me, fucking making all this damn noise. Before I answer that question, I got a question for you.
Please do.
I want to address the elephant in the room. Okay. What the fuck happened to J-Bone, and why haven't nobody said anything about it?
So we like to call that he fell into the StreamYard void. We call it the StreamYard void because I don't know what the fuck happens, but somehow this guy's computer like manages to like malfunction because of StreamYard more than any motherfucker I know. And he was trying for like 15 minutes before the show. He's like, dude, it keeps saying it won't accept my fucking camera. I'm sure you've noticed at this point we've got J-Bone in the comments. He's been dropping comments and commenting along. He's like, oh, I can't get back in the room, so I'm gonna just comment. I'm gonna comment along. He's been commenting along with us. But yeah, the StreamYard void caught J-Bone. Don't fall into the void, man. I'm just
okay. All right, now back to Sabu. Sabu, what he said?
He said, DBA, I'm here, brother.
I got you, bro. You know, when Sabu was younger, like I said, my dad was hanging around the Sheik and Sabu was around. So I remember my dad telling me a story about how he had started training Sabu in the hotel room and the Sheik didn't like it or whatever. So then Sabu finished getting trained by the Sheik years later after that. So Sabu always been a big part of the family. Sabu got me my tryout in ECW. Me and my dad was just coming to hang out with Sabu. He told us to come to the show, and we met him out back. He was walking his dog, and he was like, Malcolm, you got your gear? I'm like, of course, Sabu, I got my gear. You know, so he got me my tryout there. I had just wrestled Supernova like 2 weeks ago here in Detroit. So I get in there, get my tryout. It was with Lil Guido, Nova, the other Big Sal, and a bunch of other guys. I was supposed to get a match that night, but some shit happened. That's a long story with mistaken identity. But I didn't get the match that night. But that right there with Sabu is something I never forget because he didn't have to do that. We were just coming to see him wrestle, and he fucking got me a tryout. And I could have had a job, but I wasn't gonna quit the post office to work at ECW because they just went into bankruptcy like a couple of months after that.
Well, it looks like the post office might have been the right decision, even though every day I go there, some days I just wonder if that was the right decision for me. But that's another story for another.
Hang in there, bro. Hang in there.
Dude, I'm almost 10 years deep in that motherfucker. Shit, I know I ain't nowhere near you, but 10 years seems like a fucking eternity in that bitch. Dude, well, you talk about an ECW tryout. Holy shit, that would have been wild. I thought you were about to tell me you were going to be a full-blooded Italian for a minute.
Oh, hell no.
I thought you was about to tell me you was about to be taking JT Smith's spot in the FBI and shit, bro. See, I remember my ECW from back in the day, back when you used to have to watch that shit on WADL and catch it at like fucking midnight and shit.
Hell yeah.
You gotta love that shit. Well, dude, we have kept you for quite a while. I am looking forward to Scar Wars July 19th. I will not be able to be there because I'm gonna be on commentary for Legends of Combat, Wayne, Michigan. Check that out on Spectation Sports. But before I let you out of here, brother, if you got anything else that you want to plug, let anybody else know anything they need to know about Scar Wars. And like I said, something tells me I think your opponent might have something to say about some of the things that you said tonight.
Man, fuck what John Wayne Murdoch got to say. I'm not going to cut no fucking promo on him or nothing, but fuck what he got to say. I'll see him July the 19th. Lincoln Park Community Center, everybody. Malcolm III against Alex Colon in a Typhoon of Tubes match. It's like 8 death matches on that bitch. Bring your asses out. Check out XICW on Facebook, XICW Detroit, XICWDetroit.com. We all over the place, baby. We taking over. We already been taking over 25 years and running. Best fucking promotion. There you go.
You heard it. Stick a pin in it. One more time before I hit that button. Shout out to our guy, Ken Brass. Rest in peace, my man. I will be around if you guys are at any of the funeral arrangements, balloon release, all that stuff. Shout out to his kids. It was great to see y'all when we were at Grind Time. Like I said, knockouts and 3 counts and myself included. Got you guys if you need anything. Donald, I appreciate you in the comments as always, my man. I got to catch you at a show soon, and I need to buy you a beer because you bought me one at the last show we're at. Says we got about 300 people in here. If you guys are watching this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't be a stranger in this motherfucker. And check out XICW. Make sure you guys are back here next week. I promise you, you ain't going to want to miss what we got coming because, hey, we're only a few weeks out from that Clarissa Shields fight. And DAZN told me that you might want to hit that button. I'll just leave it at that. Until next time, peace.